Welcome to the Executive Order Audio Library, where we read Trump's executive orders in full so you can stay informed about what they contain. If you find this resource helpful, please like this video so others can find it too. To stay on top of future executive orders, please click subscribe and allow notifications so you can be alerted when new recordings are available. This is a reading of Executive Order 14163, Realigning the United States Refugee Admissions Program. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, and Section 301 of Title III United States Code, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose. Over the last 4 years, the United States has been inundated with record levels of migration, including through the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, USRAP. Cities and small towns alike, from Charleroi, Pennsylvania, and Springfield, Ohio, to Whitewater, Wisconsin, have seen significant influxes of migrants. Even major urban centers such as New York City, Chicago, and Denver have sought federal aid to manage the burden of new arrivals. Some jurisdictions, like New York and Massachusetts, have even recently declared states of emergency because of increased migration. The United States lacks the ability to absorb large numbers of migrants, and in particular refugees, into its communities in a manner that does not compromise the availability of resources for Americans, that protects their safety and security, and that ensures the appropriate assimilation of refugees. This order suspends the USRAP until such time as the further entry into the United States of refugees aligns with the interests of the United States. Section 2. Policy. It is the policy of the United States to ensure that public safety and national security are paramount considerations in the administration of the USRAP, and to admit only those refugees who can fully and appropriately assimilate into the United States and ensure that the United States preserves taxpayer resources for its citizens. It is also the policy of the United States that, to the extent permitted by law and as practicable, state and local jurisdictions be granted a role in the process of determining the placement or settlement in their jurisdictions of aliens eligible to be admitted to the United States as refugees. Section 3. Realignment of the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. A. I hereby proclaim, pursuant to Sections 212F and 215A of the INA, that entry into the United States of refugees under USRAP would be detrimental to the interests of the United States. I therefore direct that entry into the United States of refugees under USRAP be suspended, subject to the exceptions set forth in subsection C of this section, until a finding is made in accordance with Section 4 of this order. The suspension shall take effect at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on January 27, 2025. B. The Secretary of Homeland Security shall suspend decisions on applications for refugee status until a finding is made in accordance with Section 4 of this order. C. Notwithstanding the suspension of USRAP imposed pursuant to subsections A and B of this section, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Homeland Security may jointly determine to admit aliens to the United States as refugees on a case-by-case basis, in their discretion, but only so long as they determine that the entry of such aliens as refugees is in the national interest and does not pose a threat to the security or welfare of the United States. D. The Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Attorney General, shall examine existing law to determine the extent to which, consistent with applicable law, state and local jurisdictions may have greater involvement in the process of determining the placement or resettlement of refugees in their jurisdictions, and shall devise a proposal to lawfully promote such involvement. In all cases, the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall ensure that the state and local consultation requirements in 8 U.S.C. 1522A2 are carried out with respect to all refugees admitted to the United States. Section 4. Resumption of the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Secretary of State, shall submit a report to the President through the Homeland Security Advisor regarding whether resumption of entry of refugees into the United States under USRAP would be in the interests of the United States in light of the policies outlined in Section 2 of this order. The Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with the Secretary of State, shall submit further reports every 90 days thereafter until I determine that the resumption of the USRAP is in the interests of the United States. Section 5. Revocation. Executive Order 14013 of February 4, 2021, rebuilding and enhancing programs to resettle refugees and planning for the impact of climate change on migration, is hereby revoked. Section 6. Severability. If any provision of this order or the application of any provision to any person or circumstance is held to be invalid, the remainder of this order and the application of its other provisions to any other persons or circumstances shall not be affected thereby. Signed, Donald J. Trump, The White House, January 20, 2025. This concludes the reading of Executive Order 14163, Realigning the United States Refugee Admissions Program. To stay on top of future executive orders, please click subscribe and allow notifications so you can be alerted when new recordings are available.